All right, it's Wednesday. Lots to cover tonight. Seismic shifts in the fantasy landscape. How much should you be bidding on Deon Jackson? Plus, our co-managers from the Ship Chase Yacht Club swing by later to review one of our FFPC main event teams. All tonight on Ship Chasing. Play the clip.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your site.
Jamar. Alpha play chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally piss boys. You're right.
How's it going?
The funnier still gets me.
The intro still gets you?
Yeah, it still gets me.
It's still good.
I mean, that is, I had people like my DFS intro too. And I always worry, like I personally start to get bored with the same intro over and over, but people seem to just like the same thing every single time. So I'm like, hey, that makes my life easier if I don't have to update it.
Well, it'd be like one of those things, like it could be like a season, you know, like maybe next year, next spring, we could do like a brand new one, roll it for a year. But you forget, like, you're like, oh yeah, that clip really tickled me this time.
I don't know if you'll ever be able to get me to remove the Sean saying, I guess we're finally piss boys. I mean, that just has to be the bedrock, I think, of any video.
I think the only way is that we get Sean to say that we're piss boys in an even more interesting way. You have to get him to do it again.
Actually, maybe the fantasy landscape will be so different next year during drafting season, and we're forced to draft running backs all the time that we'll just even have to ditch the piss boy line.
Guess we're finally robust bros.
Yeah. That would actually probably be even harder to get Sean to say. Guess we're just vomiting green now.
Next year is going to be a fun landscape.
Yeah. And I still think we have plenty of recency bias to kind of carry into the offseason. But if the season were to stop right now and we were to start drafting for next year right now, it'd be a shit show in those drafting streets for sure.
Well, I mean, I think you'd still have Travis Etienne would go super, super high. Breece Hall would go super, super high. I think you'd still have some early round running backs for sure.
I guess that's a good point. I mean, we did have a bit of an elite running back renaissance this past week. Henry goes nuts.
Kamara.
TMC Kamara has his renaissance. Is Kamara back? Like, I was worried about his explosive plays, and he looked pretty damn explosive on Sunday.
I think he's back. I mean, Andy Dalton, it's perfect. He's checking down to him all the time. They're like a run-first team, but they're passing enough to the running back. You know, they've got Chris Olave stretching the field. Chris Olave is like sneaky awesome for Kamara, right? Like, he's a field stretcher, commands targets. So there's like, you know, like the offense is working at levels. I think he's pretty well set up.
Yeah. Gretch, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm still housing my dinner.
All right.
Yeah, Kamara, 10 high value touches the last 2 weeks. Hadn't had more than 6 in any of his first 4 games. Like, he wasn't really getting the work. He didn't have a single green zone touch in his first 4 games. Has 4 in the last couple weeks. And he scored from distance this last week. I mean, he looked great. And everything.
And, like, who's stealing touches from him now? Mark Ingram, is going to be on IR?
Taysom Hill is like the only guy.
And even the Taysom Hill slappies have been a little quiet these past few weeks. Where are all the victory lappers these days? He's not converting.
Just call him by name. just
He's still involved though. They brought in Taysom Hill for a 4th down to like do the hard count to get the opposing team to jump off sides. Like Taysom Hill's your hard count guy. Like I thought Andy Dalton could handle the hard count.
Real quick, as Weston's setting me up for a much-needed plug here, Stat Chasing was dope this week. As always, make sure you guys are checking that out. I watched it this morning. Drico and Sam doing an awesome job there. Charts on charts, breaking down the trade deadline. It is live for YouTube members every Tuesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and then we post it everywhere the next day. So make sure you guys are checking that out. It is really the best way to get yourself primed for waivers, for trades, for the DFS week. Really great stuff from those guys. What were, I know you guys have done some content post trade deadline here. Were there any sneaky things you guys thought for fantasy? Anything particularly big that could change the landscape in a way that we didn't necessarily see coming?
I think Jeff Wilson was a big one. I think he was like the biggest of the guys that moved. I think he was sort of the biggest winner. He's been really effective this year and the last couple of years with San Francisco. He knows the system a lot like Mostert coming over. I think one of the things with Mostert really taking over that backfield that's gone overlooked is that Chase Edmonds has just like sucked. He's been really bad.
Yeah.
He's like in every way. Like he's been a poor runner.
Miles Gas was a healthy scratch last week too.
Yeah. Edmonds had a really bad drop in the end zone a couple of weeks ago, like right off his hands, completely wide open. Like he just wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying he sucks. I'm saying he has played very, very bad. Like he's played like he sucks.
Saying there you go.
Yeah, I'm just saying like he could be better going forward, but he has played like as bad as you can play. It's almost like shocking how bad he's played. Which my point being, Mostert takes over the whole backfield might not really have been their plan with Mostert. It might have been more to do with Edmonds and this trade with Wilson. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they're in a 50-50 pretty quick. That's what they kind of came out with Edmonds and Mostert to start. Mostert pretty quickly became the lead and then became the pretty strong lead. I don't know that he's like a locked-in workhorse, like he's not like a super healthy guy either. And if he ends up getting hurt, then Wilson could potentially be the workhorse. So
I don't think he needs to get hurt.
Good offense.
I mean, they didn't plan for him to be the starter, right? Like Edmonds sucking was not the plan. They paid him a decent amount of money. Mostert's an older guy. He hasn't been that great. You mentioned Jeff Wilson being really good. He's 9th in NFL Next Gen's rush yards over expected per attempt. Probably my favorite rushing metric of all of them. And yeah, I mean, he's just ahead of Aaron Jones. Like he's been good. He's been pretty good. And Mostert's been like, he hasn't been terrible. Edmonds has been terrible in this, but Mostert has been kind of like below average. So I could see him taking the backfield. I think it's possible.
Who do you guys think is the better pass catcher between Mostert and Jeff Wilson?
Probably Mostert.
Yeah. He was
Jeff
a better
Wilson's
pass
not.
catcher when they were in the backfield together in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He did some stuff out of the backfield, and Wilson wasn't really doing much.
Maybe that's how it shakes out. Maybe it's like 60% of the snaps Wilson, Mostert mixing in on passing downs.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting, and it's. I don't think you can say with supreme confidence that this is just blast off for Raheem Mostert. I do agree with that. It's hard to know how much of it was, him being impressed with Mostert or just not liking what they've seen from Edmonds. It'll be really.
I think it's bad for Mostert.
It has to be
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
His backup just went from a guy who's playing terrible and basically getting benched to a guy that is playing well and knows the system. Right? I mean, it's definitely a net negative. Mostert's been good, but I mean, he hasn't been like amazing. He's been good.
No, he's pretty low on the rush yards over expected per attempt metric. I don't know. They never put the numbers, so you have to like literally count, but it looks like he's around like 36th or something. And Wilson's 9th.
And I guess like there haven't even been a ton of receptions to go around in that offense to running backs, because the way that they're doing that offense with Tua getting the ball out so quick to Tyreek and Waddle, it just doesn't seem like you're getting like the checkdowns that a lot of offenses have.
It's Billsian, right? And it's like they're doing more efficient stuff. So they're never having to utilize the running back. Like, I mean, maybe this week they'll lean on the run a little bit more. But they're just matchup based. But like, Jeff Wilson's probably gonna be up to speed this week. So this might be kind of your last like hurrah with Mostert.
Although I guess we kind of thought that with the Michael Carter and James Robinson stuff too, the last hurrah. And then it's like, is James Robinson maybe never going to amount to anything with the Jets this year?
I mean, is that either of them going to amount to anything?
I'm on Discord right now. I had to relearn my password today for some reason, and I'm getting the little doot every time someone, the little notification, the sound.
What do you need? You need a Discord tutorial right now?
Yeah, I need to figure out how to.
Okay, go down to your user settings.
Yeah, I'm in user settings. There's a ton of options. What do I do?
Now, if you would like this tutorial, you should sign up for our premium YouTube right now so you can get in our Discord. Then you can also get this tutorial to mute the Discord.
You know what I'd actually like? If I could maybe get you and Silva together as a client, Silva famously tagged the entire ETR
I
Discord.
just thought you might have a quick answer. Where the hell is
Now,
it?
Ben, this
Notifications.
This is entirely unrelated to your inability to solve a technological issue. But on our 10K team, who did you want to keep and who did you want to cut? Could you just remind me?
Message sounds.
Was it Julio
I have
Jones that you wanted to
disable
keep?
all notification sounds.
And was it Sky Moore that you wanted to cut?
Oh.
I don't think Gretch can multitask through this and talk about Skymore right now.
That's why I was making it part of the show, because there's no way I was multitasking through that. It's a 12-team standalone league, and I think
I know. I'm just calling you a boomer.
Yeah.
I'm calling you a boomer as you can't figure out Discord.
Yeah.
I will say Ben Silva. Ben and Silva are co-managing an FFPC main event league this year. I'm starting to think Silva might be rubbing off on you, Ben.
It's possible. The text messages have been a blast. That team is crushing, by the way. Like, it is absolutely.
The 10K? We lost Brees Hall. Oh,
no. Now you're not
27 overall right now.
It's a Nick Chubb team, you said, right? Third round Nick Chubb.
Chubb team, Andrews, Lamar stack, Rhamondre. Silva was very into Tyler Lockett at price, which was a nice ad. We got Waddle and Garrett Wilson.
Shit, that is a nice team.
It's a fun team. It's a real fun team.
That's real nice. Man, do you know what? Again, one thing that I've noticed too, and it happened obviously with my best ball teams last year, the team I drafted with Eric, we've had the dynamic happen with Crack Rock a couple years ago. The idea of like coming together to do drafts when you see things ideologically different. And I think you can make a counter argument. Sometimes you water down your process and it doesn't work, but sometimes it does really come together in a good way where like the three of us are never drafting Nick Chubb, but you get together with Silva and draft Nick Chubb on a team where you meet in the middle on like, he's a good value here. Yep. You do build really interesting teams that way.
And 310, there was no way I could even talk him off of it. I remember
he's a great value at 310.
At 310. And this team also has Lamb, by the way. This is a Lamb Andrews start, then Chubb, then the rest of that team. So it has legit ceiling.
I wonder if part of the magic of it is that you have to think of like a little bit more objectively. Like Nick Chubb in the third round was like an objectively good value. I feel like we all agreed on that, but he wasn't a fun click for us. So it's more like if someone's like, I love Nick Chubb here. And you're like, well, it seems like this will make you happy, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
The problem is for us this year, when we tried to be objective, it resulted in a Najee Harris share, and that's
true.
The dark
it also
side
resulted in a Derrick Henry share. We got Derrick Henry.
It did.
The other thing is like you're trying to get your exposures and things like that, and so I think in that spot we're probably thinking. I'm looking at the board right now. Right after Chubb, Allen Robinson, we wouldn't take him. But Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then we took Waddle at 402. We leave that pocket with two of those receivers. We probably go Mike Williams, Waddle, or vice versa, or whatever. Because we're like, we want to get a few more shares of Mike Williams and Waddle and stuff. Which is, it's not that we think Chubb was a bad pick. I mean, that's something I know on Stealing Bananas, Sean and I talked about that. Once he was down in the late third, like you could certainly justify taking Nick Chubb at this point as like a talent-based pick. I mean, he's a really good football player, but it's just not a pick that, you're right. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger on, but I wasn't going to stop Silva.
No, I would have. I would have been easily talked into Waddle, but it's like a situation, Waddle would be a good pick there too, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just harder to get to Chubb when we're all like, we'd prefer Waddle. We probably should do Chubb, but let's do Waddle.
Let's do it.
Everyone wants to know how our JJ Henry team is doing with Davis. It honestly should be doing so much better. That team has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson. If you guys want to know how it's going, we're losing to Tyler's team that auto-drafted. That's how that team is.
Because we keep taking Amon-Ra zeros.
We take Amon-Ra zeros. Yeah, it's the second year in the row where we've had just extremely talented players on the team. Last year we had the Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, Eli Mitchell with Davis. I still think you could just rip off some massive scores, but definitely underperforming right now.
Yeah, that sucked. I mean, it's a Lance team. Waller got hurt. Drake London and Traylon Burks. Our whole stretch, round 4 to round 8 was Waller, Amon-Ra St. Brown, good weeks, but also these, we're not getting paid off like we should. Drake London, Trey Lance, Traylon Burks were those 5 picks.
Can we I mean, Darren Waller might be like as close as we have to like a league killer this year.
Yeah,
like those and like tight end sucks. I get it, but he somehow finds a way to kill us.
Yeah,
I know. Tight end's so bad. Tight end gets worse every year. And then it's also like the answer every fucking year is just draft Travis Kelce. That was the answer. And it's like, no, he's old. He's too old. He's a year older. It's not the answer this year.
Yeah.
I mean, and we knew that tight end was so weak. That was a big part of the excitement for Pitts and like how the tight ends could differentiate. But I mean, yeah, we should have got more exposure to Kelce, more to Andrews.
Yeah. What is
Kelce was so much cheaper than last year.
Gretch, let's get a state of the Pitts Union after his big game on Sunday. Where are we at here?
We're exactly where we were.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the exact same guy he was before. And all 80 of his yards, all of his catches came by their like 17th or 18th pass attempt, which is like a really semantical point, but like they ended up throwing 28.
That's usually when they're done.
Yeah, that's usually when they're done, right? They ended up throwing 28 passes in this game, and I think the easy thing to look at the box score and go, oh, hey, they threw a little bit more in this game. Yeah. They threw 5 passes in overtime. They weren't actually particularly good at throwing late, those extra ones that they added when it got a little frantic at the end there with Carolina. That game shouldn't have gone to overtime if Carolina makes that extra point, that extended one because the DJ Moore penalty, all that stuff. But they added 5 extra, attempts in overtime. Pitts didn't catch a pass. Like, he was a part of the flow, the game plan early. He caught all of his passes early enough. His last catch was in the fourth quarter, and it was, I think, their 17th or 18th pass attempt. Like, it's the same thing. We were talking about how the target sprout run was still strong, right? Even though he's not running a ton of routes, he can still splash a little bit. He has the high ADOT. He hits a 33-yard catch. I mean, he's exact same. It's still like he could go back to going 2 catches for 9 yards next week if they throw 15 passes again, right? Like, it's – and we knew Atlanta couldn't throw 13, 14 passes like they did the 2 prior games every game.
Yeah.
And this is the type of game that does – like, they were only at like 17 or 18 in the fourth quarter, but they end up going to OT. They push up to 28. You play that type of game, that happens.
They were just they were extremely run heavy last week. I think that minus 13% PROE or something. They ran a lot more plays than usual. I think they ran 7 more plays than their average, something like that. And yeah, so it's like just add more plays. Just this past week, they had like 7 plays over their team average because of the OT, probably because of the OT. Yeah. But my point is, it's like their mix was the same. They're still extremely run heavy. Like, like a minus 7% PROE is like very run heavy. They were like double that. So they're still.
I mean, it is nice to see, though, for as bad as that passing offense is, like the different outs that Kyle Pitts gives you. Like, we finally saw some of the yards after catch this week. We've seen him get used in the red zone. We know he can catch balls downfield, and now we finally got to see him in the open field. It's like the fact that he's succeeding in this environment is still a miracle.
Yeah, something I would say that, I mean, I'm not going to take any victory laps on Pitts, but was sort of a minor point early on when London got the huge target shares early. I was arguing at points that Pitts might still be like the 1 to London's 2, right? We had that very specific discussion. You remember that, Pat? I remember you were kind of in on that as well. We talked through that a little bit. And I think, if you look at just like the last 4 or 5 weeks, I haven't actually pulled this, but that's what you'd find is that Pitts has been the guy that's been more of a focal point over these last.
I wrote that in the walkthrough this week.
Okay.
So I said over the last 2 weeks, Pitts has arguably taken over as the number 1 option. In that span, London has seen 4 targets on first read throws. Pitts has seen 9.
Yeah.
So, it's like, what plays are they calling, right? If he's the first read, I don't know. It's like kind of an indication.
Which is like a good and a bad. It's like a good and a bad. The bad part of it is, again, Atlanta's offense hasn't changed. They've just game plan to throw to Pitts a little bit more.
That's right.
Which is like a little concerning.
London has been completely dead over this period. Yeah. So if they just go, and we don't know what they're doing, like that might have been very matchup based, right? They're calling specific plays to attack the specific defense. Next week it could be London, that is getting a little bit more of that first read love. So it's all very fragile because they don't call any fucking passing plays.
First 4 games, London had a 35% or 0.35 targets per route run. Pitts was 0.28. He was significantly ahead. Last 4 games, Pitts is at 30 or 0.30, and London's down at 0.21. So it was London +7 in terms of percentage points of targets earned per route, and now it's been Pitt's +9. It flipped from the first 4 games to the other 4 games.
That's one of the things we did get right. Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
No. I was just gonna ask you because I bet this this morning. What do you guys think Drake London's receiving yards prop on Underdog is this week? What's the line?
Do you know it?
Yeah, I bet it.
28.
I wish.
35.
It's 39.5. Most projection systems have him at least 45 or higher. I'm a sucker. I'm a glutton for punishment. So I'm betting Drake London and Marcus Mariota overs again here.
Love it.
This week against the Chargers.
Pat, is this the game matchup wise? The Chargers are still a run funnel, right? Are they going to be like -20 PRA?
They're not a run funnel, but they're about to be. It's like
they're playing the Falcons.
They're playing the Falcons, so the numbers are about to get super skewed.
Yeah.
So after this week, I'm gonna be like,
"What they're about to be" was a great quote.
No, for real though, because their defense is just bad. It's bad. They're like going at like the Lions or something. Like they can't really stop anything. So it's really up to you, and we know what the Falcons want to do.
What about TJ Hockenson? Is this a yay, a nay, or steady as she goes?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I didn't have a strong take on
it. I feel like I don't know. I think maybe a yay. I think it might be a yay. Because Amon-Ra St. Brown is very good at what he does. Yep. But what he does isn't helping TJ Hockenson, right? Like if you have a guy who gets open, I think his ADOT's like 5.5, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You get open quickly in the middle of the field, 5 yards downfield or whatever. How does that help a tight end? If you're Justin Jefferson and you're actually drawing defensive coverage downfield, like that should probably open up the middle of the field a little more for Hockenson. So it's a similar situation. He's going to be a clear 2, but I guess Thielen might have something to say about that, but I think Thielen's a little.
Do we know this is something I have no idea on, but we know that receivers changing teams sometimes need a little bit of time to get up to speed. We also know that tight ends take a little longer to develop in the NFL, which has been described before as being that they have more responsibilities in both the run and pass game, right? So they have more of the playbook to learn. Do we know what the data is on tight ends changing teams? I guess my initial thought was like, it's going to be tough for him to be an immediate impact on a new team, just anecdotally, but I don't really even have any anecdotes that I'm thinking of. It's just like, and I don't have any data to back that up. So I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense logically. I mean, and you could also point to the fact that Irv Smith was running like 60% of the routes. And so Hockenson, because tight ends, like they just don't draw targets that well. I mean, unless you're Kelsey or Andrews. So like you need the route. You need to run all the routes. And like if you're at 60, I mean, if you're in a wide receiver and you were at 60% of the routes, you wouldn't really be fantasy relevant. So it's tough because you need them to commit to Hockenson in a way they never did to Smith, which I think they probably will like eventually because he's better. But let's say for like the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think he could easily be at like a 50%. It could be Noah Fant, right? He could be like Noah Fant and Johnny Muntz, Will Dissly, and it's just a touchdown bet every week.
Right. It seems like a neutral move at worst, and if you have a team that's actually committed to featuring him more, which the Lions never seem to be. I mean, he had the one blow up game against the Seahawks where their hands were tied when they were down everybody, and he had the talent to take advantage of that opportunity. But if the Vikings like really want him and went out and got him, I mean, to me that's always an encouraging sign. Same thing with the Jeff Wilson stuff. Like a team is showing intent when they go and get these guys. That has to be a good thing.
I think
that's true.
Part of your point there, and I think it's a great one, is I don't know that this is a great point, but part of your point is what are we thinking of Hockenson? What are we thinking he is? Because if you just look at his points per game, he's the tight end 3 in PPR or tight end 4. If we look at his ADP, he was expected to be a top 6 tight end, but like you just described him the way that I would describe him, which is pretty disappointing all year, right? He has the 138-point game and everything else has been pretty crappy. If we're comparing it to the non-blow-up games and everything he's done this year, other than that one game, then I agree with you that there's probably upside because it seems like he's wasn't going to get there with the Lions other than that, one explosion.
Yeah, I guess the Lions, they might get the number 1 pick. So we could have been pretty excited next year. Now I'm just starting to think dynasty stuff, but it's like next year, maybe we would have gotten excited about this offense a little more than we will with the Vikings. But the Vikings, they traded for him with his 5th-year option already picked up. So they're on the hook for $9.4 million next year. And then presumably he's going to want a contract extension. So, and you traded enough for him that you probably are going to give him. So to your point on intent, Pete, like it's a decent commitment. Like it's, they're going to have to pay this guy.
Yep. We're going to have our guys from Chip Chase Yacht Club joining us here in a little bit. As far as week 9 waiver stuff going through, I would say an above average waiver wire week relative to some of the other weeks. We've had Jeff Wilson available in a lot of leagues, Deon Jackson with, stuff swirling with JT. Any other interesting names for you guys this week?
Hines is available in one of my leagues. That's obviously an interesting one. Yeah.
Dobbins was available in one of our leagues.
Yep.
Dobbins is out there. There's definitely still some interesting names that are, we've talked over the last couple of weeks that guys are getting cut, right? Like Elijah Moore was getting cut. I don't see him available in any league, but that I'm in. But
what would you do with him, man?
I'd probably throw him back at this point. I mean, if anyone added him,
he might be a cut right now.
Yeah.
Who?
Elijah Moore.
Oh yeah. That is the hard part with some of these, you look at guys in Gretch. I know you brought this up in one of our chats and I was feeling the same way. Like, obviously you want to see the black box. What does Chase Claypool look like on the Bears? But some of these guys like Elijah Moore, it's just, they're teetering on roster clogger territory where you're like, when are you ever going to feel comfortable starting them?
It would take a long stretch.
It feels bad to chuck them back as well.
Yeah. Yep.
You might get one start out of Elijah Moore for the rest because you're going to need his routes to go back up, which might take like 2 or 3 weeks. Then you're going to need him to actually get targeted pretty well. I don't know, man. Could be 5 weeks from now where you're like, I think I feel good. Let's start him. And then he's going to get you 6 points.
I got a couple takes.
Go ahead. I was just going to hit this one real quick because it is the game tomorrow. Matt Stone asking about Brevin Jordan in Houston tight end. So you have Nico Collins out. We have Brandon Cooks, what looks to appear to be quiet quitting. He's questionable with wrist/personal reasons. I think he's just pissed. Like he might just not play tomorrow. He just might say, fuck it. As someone who played Chris Moore in DFS last week and took that bagel, I'm not necessarily running to the wide receiver well there, but I guess the tight ends could be vaguely interesting.
Well, it's tough. The targets are going to be available. Last week, Brevin Jordan ran 46%, a route on 46% of the dropbacks. Both O.J. Howard and Jordan Akins were at 34%. Wait, Akins is with Houston right now, right? Or am I looking at this wrong?
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Carol Brown is the guy that left.
Fair, right. Okay. And then you have the week before, Brevin Jordan was only at 38% and Akins was at 48% and led the team coming out of the bye. It looks like sort of like the Seattle situation. They're using these multiple tight ends. And last week when they had Collins out as well, they just jumped Philip Dorsett up to an 89% route rate. And I mean, they're just going to use Chris Moore, you mentioned. Both those guys scored touchdowns. I made a little comment in the Stealing Signals. Like those guys were wide receiver 4s in 2019. They should be out of the league at this point, but that's where we're at with the Texans. But they're going to run out wide receiver 4s from 2019. And like that's who's going to run the routes and catch the passes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And they've done this tight end by committee thing for a while, And I know it's like a new head coach here, but it's the same offensive coordinator, right? Pep Hamilton was there last year as the OC, I think. So.
Yeah. Gretch, sorry, I didn't, when I brought up the Texans tight ends, you said there were a couple interesting other names.
Yeah. Well, I said I had a couple takes. One was Chase Claypool we have on one of our teams, and I was saying, I feel like he's like cuttable, which doesn't really jive with the fact that he just got traded for a second-round pick and now becomes like the potential number 1. But is he that much better than Darnell Mooney? And Darnell Mooney might be cuttable. And now you have 2 of them, and that might make them throw a little more, but they don't protect Fields particularly well. I think they're going to continue to be an incredibly run-heavy team. Like, they're even more run-heavy than the Falcons. Like, Claypool moves up the totem pole by a lot, by, being like 4th in Pittsburgh and 1st in Chicago, but Pittsburgh in Pickett's 3 full games has averaged over 50 dropbacks. And now you're going to a team that's going to average like 22 dropbacks. Like, it's a massive shift.
And I was just looking too, if you're kind of trying to think the long game, their playoff schedule is weeks 15 and 16 are brutal. They play the Eagles and then the Bills. They do get the Lions in week 17, which is obviously very juicy, but man, Eagles Bills could be a disaster for that passing game.
So this is what I have on Claypool this week in the walkthrough. He's been double teamed on 29% of his routes. If you look at receivers with 200 plus routes run, he trails only DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, and Jamar Chase.
Weird.
So like, yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So like he's drawing coverage. So it makes me feel like, one, maybe he's better than we realize from a fantasy perspective, right? The defense is like thinks he's dangerous. And then 2, Darnell Mooney has not been drawing a lot of double teams, 15% rate for him, which is pretty low. So it makes me feel like, one, again, maybe Claypool's like better than Mooney, like maybe significantly better than Mooney. Maybe that won't necessarily translate to a ton of fantasy production if all he's doing is drawing coverage, but maybe it's good for Mooney if he draws coverage. Maybe Mooney's open more now, or maybe this team is like, we think this guy's a potential star. We're going to build around him. So I would definitely I would wait and see. I would see how this.
But like, are they going to throw enough? Because it sounds like the Falcons
throw enough to support one guy.
Yeah.
If it funnels to one guy, I think maybe they could, because they throw a little more, right? They feel more confident, and if it's funneling to one guy, so I would. I
love these questions. Like, does it help Komet? I mean, could anything hurt Komet? Probably. Like, just more vertical threats, maybe. I don't know. Fields.
Who's that? Who'd you say?
Yeah, I've never heard of this man.
You know what? I mean, you're saying how they think of Chase Claypool. I mean, this organization has been looking at Byron Pringle and Velus Jones. Chase Claypool's going to look like fucking Calvin Johnson to them in this offense.
They're just going to throw up. And Fields throws a good deep ball. He's going to have some long touchdowns. He's going to make some beast plays. It's just like, I guess I don't want to cut him. It's just like, when are you going to want to start
Kate's right. I think they did want a better wide receiver to not throw it to.
Right.
The double coverage kind of points.
So they can acquit themselves and be like, no, we gave Justin Fields weapons. Like,
do you guys realize how good this is going to be for Justin Fields' scramble game? This is going to be elite. They're going to be double teaming Chase Claypool 30 yards from the line of scrimmage.
Yes, that's right.
Fields going to be running all over the place.
Do you guys have any Deon Jackson takes?
I think I'm a little less bullish than you. Did we make the change, Ben? We had one league, I think, where we have both Jeff Wilson and Deon Jackson available.
I think these guys made a good case, Pete, and the
you got sold. You sold me. I'm like gonna agree with the last person who speaks on this. I think they're pretty close.
I mean, my take on Deon Jackson is just, one, he might get a spot start this week if they keep JT out. I mean, he re-aggravated the same ankle injury that cost him to miss 2 games earlier this season. He's your franchise runner. He's your best player. You're already looking to next year when you make the switch from Ryan to Ellinger. Like, to me, this has all kinds of JT multi-week absence, JT potential shutdown written all over it. And it's just like, Hines is gone. Deon Jackson caught a shit ton of balls. And you guys can get into more of the advanced stuff there. But to me, this is like a keep it simple, stupid. Like, he served as a bell cow in those games. Both Hines and JT were out, and now we could have that same situation play out again.
I think their coaching staff, their front office is concerned for their jobs. I don't think they're necessarily going to pack it up for this year. They are 3-4-1. I think that the quarterback change was actually more of like a desperation type thing to compete now, to be honest. I'm concerned about JT, and I do think there's some possible concern that he misses time. And I agree with you that Deon Jackson's a better start this week than Jeff Wilson. But I guess I'm not as concerned that they're going to shut Taylor down, especially because the AFC South isn't good. The Titans are 2 games ahead of them right now and have the tiebreaker. But the Titans aren't going to run away with this division. That's not a very good team. They've been winning games against bad teams. They're going to stay close enough that they're going to want to continue to compete. Is my take. And then Pat brought up, like, Matt Ryan was the quarterback. Deon Jackson was getting all those catches. Like, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
The Ellinger stuff. I mean, they did go pretty run heavy. I was disappointed with how run heavy they went. They also, and maybe this helps Deon Jackson potentially. They ran a lot more heavy personnel. I think they were like 10% higher in terms of their combined use of 2 tight end and 2 running back sets. So over their season average. So that was kind of disappointing because I was hoping for like Alec Pierce stuff, and he didn't run all that many routes. Like I think he was around like 70% because he was kind of splitting time with Campbell. But I don't know. Maybe the heavy stuff actually is good for Deon Jackson if it ends up being him.
The other point you made that I liked, Pat, was that they can't even get the run game going with Jonathan Taylor. And Deon Jackson's averaged 3.3 yards per carry so far. He's caught all 14 of his targets, and in his 2 games where he's gotten good run, he's caught a lot of balls. But like you're kind of just looking at a guy that's probably not going to run very efficiently on a bad offense if he's starting. It's still worth playing. It's 2022 fantasy football, right? Like we would still start him for sure if Taylor was out.
Yeah. And the other thing you through, like I'm thinking back to a few weeks ago with, the Mike Boone debates too. First of all, we're running out of weeks in the season. It's week 8 before the playoffs are starting. You could potentially get a spot start and there's room for more. And you could argue that he's going to have far less competition than even Mike Boone did when he took over for the Broncos. So to me, it's just like, when you're going to spend your bullets in the chamber, like we're running out of time.
Oh, here. I'm with you on that. I guess for me, it's just like Wilson versus Jackson. I think is an interesting debate. But if you only have one of them, go get him. Go get the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other take I was going to throw out at you guys, I was making this in one of our chats earlier, is Terrace Marshall. I think we, as the sort of prospect lovers, have a tendency, because we are looking at a lot of the data and the larger trends, to maybe move off guys quicker than the community. Where like I think like some of the boomers might be like, oh yeah, Terrace Marshall, that guy. People were talking about him in Dynasty last year. Like, yeah, he had a bad first year, but I'll give him a shot. And we're sitting there going, guys who have had as bad of a first season as Terrace Marshall never come back, and he's just done. So like we've completely written him off. But last year was considered one of the top prospects in the class. For a lot of people, pre-draft was the number 2 wide receiver in the class, behind only Chase. Had a horrible efficiency year. But if you look at...
I'm not sure he was really... I think most people have had like Waddle above him. I think he was kind of in the mix with like Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Bateman for some people.
Yeah.
I had Bateman ahead.
I remember, I mean, I'm not trying to call his house a negative thing because JJ's the man, but I remember JJ Zacharyson had him number 2 was 1. There was a few that really liked him. That was pre-draft, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm wrong, for some reason you're listening to this, JJ, my apologies. But there were people that were very high on Marshall, and rightfully so.
I like him. I like him as prospect.
Yeah, I liked him too. He had a really, really poor efficiency year in his rookie year. He didn't run a ton of routes, like 200 and something, like a decent amount. That's not great either, that he didn't get on the field on a bad team. But the thing that I would argue is you look at it after the target efficiency, his yards per target, his touchdown rate, stuff like that. Everyone in Carolina's offense last year was horrible, right? Robbie Anderson was historically bad. We were wanting to play him every week in DFS because he couldn't stay as inefficient. Remember, everyone was just martin-killing Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore had like a 7.1.
He was in yards. 2 Rainmaker winners, wasn't he?
Yeah, probably.
A couple weeks he went off.
DJ Moore was at a 7.1 yards per target, I think it was. This is one of the things I used to argue in favor of Moore this offseason because every other year of his career he was at 9.6, 8.7, 10.1. I mean, he's like a 9+ type yards per target, true talent guy. He was down at 7. Everyone else in the patch, Tommy Tremble ran their most routes or was targeted the most of their tight ends. He was at like a 5 yards per target. They were all horrible. I think they threw like 12 total pass touchdowns for the whole season, or 14. It's an egregiously low number. I don't think we talked enough about this, but Carolina in 2021 was like the worst pass offense in the NFL for like a number of years. 14 total pass touchdowns. So you consider that, and then also you consider that Marshall's actually been efficient so far this year. His yards per target is actually above average right now. He hasn't run a lot of routes. It's a very small sample. But 95 and 100% of the routes the last 2 weeks since Robbie Anderson got traded. He's playing a ton, and he was a prospect that we liked. He was also 21 years old last year, really young prospect, just turned 22 in June. I mean, he had just turned 21 in June. He's one of those like real young 21-year-olds last year when he had the really bad rookie year. I don't think this dude is definitely terrible. It could have been the situation that influenced him. And he's playing a ton, so you get this like, and he's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. You get this, he still is not on the radar a ton. You can probably add him fairly cheap, I think. And you get this, we're going to find out more because he's going to play the next couple of weeks more and more and more. If PJ Walker keeps playing well, which Pete, you made Pat, or one of you made a point that he might turn into a dud.
I think he's going to turn into a pumpkin again.
It was you.
But you really can't, like, the Falcons are the matchup. Like, if you want to look like a competent NFL quarterback, play the Falcons. So look, if he looks good against the Bengals, then, and they're not like an elite defense or anything, but I'll be a lot more swayed. But to your point, maybe it's too late. Maybe Marshall's getting picked up this week, and you gotta.
Right,
we've added him cheaply to some bids, right?
Yeah,
we have, and maybe he'll go for 100 in some leagues. I've seen some other people wanting to bid on him.
You got to turn him back out. You got to be able to turn him back out.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's at an 8.7 yards per target right now. Last couple weeks has ran a lot of routes. Didn't do a lot in week 7. Week 8 drew 9 targets, had 87 yards, only 4 catches. But there's a little bit of life there. I think it's worth grabbing him, knowing he's going to play a lot over these next couple weeks and seeing if that progresses. Because there's some potential that he was just a late bloomer. He was super young and is actually good. Like, there was prospect stuff that suggested he was
a chance. Now, can I interest you in a guy who was also in a terrible situation last year and currently has 6.89 yards per out run? His teammate Laviska Shenault.
Roll the clip.
All right, we're gonna roll the clip and bring
La Vizca va a romper por fuera. ¡Vamos! ¡Viste! ¡Vamos! A la 15, a la 20, a la 10, a la 5. ¡Métete la Vizca! ¡Hasta la vista! ¡Hasta la Vizca! ¡Hasta la Vizca! ¡Hasta la vista! ¡Touchdown! 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 ¡La Vizca! ¡Hasta la vista!
It's Ship Chase Yacht Club. Ship Chase Yacht Club in the house. Ship Chase Yacht Club. Lucky LouDog, Frankie, Serum. How we doing tonight, guys?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Hang on. Look at this bucket hat. Look at Frankie rocking. This was did you special request that, Frankie? I can't remember. Was that you?
Yeah, it was during the summer pool season, and you didn't have one up there, and I have one I always wear when I'm in the pool, and mine was kind of tearing apart. So I'm like, I'll see if you guys can whip one up. So you were able to.
One of one.
Yeah, I think I sold one other one of them. That not hotcakes in the store. Although, do I need to do like a ship chasing shield fathead so you can take the divorcee over your shoulder down?
Yeah, I'll definitely change it out if you get something good for me. So I'm open.
I'll see what we can do. Lou, how we doing tonight?
Good. I think a Pete fathead would probably sell to some people out there.
you probably would, dude.
Probably not the people you want to buy it, though.
Definitely not.
My in-laws, they hadn't been over to our new house since really early on, and they were walking through. We're kind of giving them a tour, and I had my Top Shot painting of it was like that moment where they were kind of looking at it and looking at me, and we just kind of all agreed not to talk about it or explain what that was. So I don't know if we need overs at Fatheads. Lawrence, aka Serum, you're broadcasting from a cabin in Canada, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, my home. I live in a log cabin up in Canada, so it's good. It's good. Winter doesn't exist here. I grew up on the prairies where winter is -20, -30 Celsius, which is really, really freaking cold. So yeah. I moved to the West Coast, not too far north of Gretsch. It's much nicer.
There you go. Little Pack Nor meetup. I think that's what we need to get in the works here. Let's see. So we drafted a slow main event team with this crew. When did we kick it off? Was it early August for this one?
No, it was July.
I think it was July.
Yeah. Was it July? Okay.
We were the second one you guys did, I think. So it was before you guys knew that the rooms were sharper. So it was early on.
We learned on the fly.
Yeah, I was tilting very hard.
We got to warn poor Mr. Ryan Bickmore in the
Was
chat
this the one that
catch the shade in this one?
Was this the one that was like incredibly difficult the whole way through?
Yeah, we all wanted Diggs at 11. Pete promised me we'd get him, and then we didn't. And then
sounds like you let that go, right, Frankie?
Yeah, it went downhill from there. So
I will admit, Diggs would have been better than Devontae Adams there for sure. That would have been nice.
Ben, I think you're thinking of Shot Chaser, the one we did on live on stream.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
So
Swift
if you're
over
watching,
Barkley back then, Barkley was going a lot later, but that hurts to look at in hindsight with the way Swift has been banged up.
yeah. So we
I was
are
looking for AJ Brown to come to us too, but we ended up with Kittle. So
That's right. Brown was going so late at this point, and we almost got him.
Yeah. Rest in peace to the team that started Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Cam Akers, although I'd probably go look at their record and they're probably in like second place somehow. So this was the
what
draft.
team is it? I'm going to check now.
Check.
These picks in the
They
middle
are.
round.
I think
Christian
they're top
Kirk.
5.
Yeah, Damian Pierce, Joe Burrow, they're actually doing well.
They're first.
God.
Wait,
oh
they're
my god.
I knew it. I was going to talk about their shitty team and they're in fucking first place.
This season.
Every time. So we're 5-3 here, right in the mix. For the audio listeners, our draft, we started Devontae Adams, DeAndre Swift, George Kittle, Jalen Waddle, Juju, Elijah Moore, Wolf, Kyler Murray, Sky Moore, Rhamondre, Rondale, etc. How are we feeling about this team, Frankie?
Because
Because
Ina's
you
in
tilted.
there. Don't etc. Ina.
I mean, last time I read off the entire draft board, I got in trouble. Okay. So I was trying to cut myself off. Frankie, are you still tilting this team? Are you happy with our 5-3 record?
Oh, I'm definitely happy with our 5-3 record. I mean, we're like middle of the pack in points. There was a few picks we probably could have done a little bit differently. When we had the choice of Kyler versus Hurts, and we took Kyler, and then the 2 wide receivers went directly after that, and then we got stuck with Sky Moore. And I'd much rather have Ayuk or even Kirk. And then maybe if he would have taken Kyler, we could have got Hurts instead. But
There was no world in which we were taking Kirk over Sky Moore. So I guess Ayuk.
we might have taken Ayuk.
I think we did one
Hurts.
Ayuk.
Ayuk Hurts is the possibility.
I recall Ayuk being
Yeah.
a snipe.
It does go to show how thin the margins are too. Like you said, if we go there and then Kyler goes to the team on the turn, and then we're for sure taking Hurts if Kyler's off the board there.
I mean,
Look in the 5th, we could have got Amon-Ra went 1 pick before us.
And Gabe Davis
and
3
Elijah
picks
Moore.
before. Gabe Davis was a 311 or like a 309 by the end of draft season. He was there the 5th. Like Russell Gage went 1 pick after Elijah Moore. This looks like a fossil from another time. Like what is this draft?
Yeah, so let's see. Let's take a look at our team. Our bids did process. You can see our bids here because I haven't refreshed yet. We did a 220 bid on Deon Jackson, went after a defense, some tight end dust balls here. I mean, I do feel like this team, it really does kind of, I mean, Swift is like our big, kind of swing player, right, on this team. Like I guess you could say Devontae Adams too. Do we have faith he's going to get things going?
I think with this team, it blows me away that like there were some clear misses. Like this team feels like a grind for me. That it's 5-3. I think we're middle of the pack, but I think we're like 50 points out of the second points playoff spot and stuff. But it just feels like every week we're just at a grind and buy with this. There aren't Waddle's kind of a hit. Rhamondre obviously has paid off, but this is a whole bunch of guys that like kind of performed at or below ADP, or just like we're total whiffs with Elijah, and we're just banging it out. So I kind of dig it. It's like a gritty team, and I think there are guys that if they can close strong, like if Swift can get healthy, or if Devontae can get sorted, like the fact that we've gotten where we are without any of these guys really going off is kind of heartening. Trying to be optimistic.
I would also note that we do have Greg Dulcich on this team.
We do.
So we're good.
Algier worked out for us when we started him. Yeah. We got to play Shakir 1 week. Like we've had a couple of spot starts that have worked out too.
If you go back to our draft board, I'm looking at it in a different window now, and the way that you just described that, Lawrence, it gets back to, again, the receiver depth. We go Swift and Kittle in 2 and 3, and then we take Kyler in 7. We take Stevenson in 9. we'd take 2 more running backs in that window. I know we were really excited early on about those Algier, Tyrion Davis-Price types. Henderson was probably a guy that we got sniped on. I think we really wanted there. We were like, we got to get a few more of these running backs in this pocket. But as a result of all those non-receiver picks, you have Adams, you have the Waddle, Juju, Elijah pocket. Sky's our 5, Rondale's our 6, and whoever's on the screen there is our 7. I guess that's Gallup. But Elijah doesn't hit, Sky doesn't hit, and you're in a position where you have 3 viable receivers, not a position that we're really comfortable being in, right?
Juju's only like has he hit? He's had a couple weeks. I would say
he's
hasn't
good versus zone, but
Yeah.
not for
Juju.
man. I heard like the last 2 weeks he's been really good, but that was versus zone. So I don't know like how many teams play zone or not, but
Holy cow, Frankie getting in the fucking weeds with defensive concepts for our
I
player
own one
here?
home league, so I know for sure that somebody said, I think it was on the NBC show, I think with Pat. So somebody said that. I don't remember who, but
I think I think Kyle might have said it's so funny. Home leagues are like, especially like, I feel like people will dive deeper for a home league than any other league.
Liam also mentions too, you also don't have any of the players who got injured last week, which a bunch of competing teams will. Mike Williams, Breece Hall. I mean, we talk about a lot of the different dynamics for, what was the optimal draft strategy this year, and staying healthy is obviously a huge one. And outside of like the Swift being banged up, Adams being a little in and out here, I mean, we've stayed very healthy in that regard. It's
so true with the health, because like Breece Hall was maybe the best pick in fantasy football.
Yeah.
And then he tears his ACL. So it's like, it's tough because like that is exactly like you did it. You did what we're all trying to do when you got Breece Hall. It's just pure shit luck that he then got hurt. So
yeah, there's nothing worse than when you're right and it doesn't pay off. Like it's
right in like the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing in fantasy, just to like to know that you were right and then it still didn't pay off, because Hall, the entire thesis on Hall was right. The upside.
I will also say on our teams, like we have some teams with better anchor RBs. We have some teams with maybe a little bit more depth, but this blend of like high upside with Swift and Rhamondre, and then this 0 RB room. I mean, Eno, Zamir White, Jerick McKinnon, Pacheco, Algier. That's about within reason about like my dream kind of running 0 RB room, like heading down the stretch. Like there's a lot of upside in this crew here.
What if I told you that it was Deon Jackson instead of Zamir White? Because we did end up getting him.
Did we got him? Okay.
Yeah,
Very
220.
nice.
The next closest bid was 158. So it's good that we pumped it up there at the end.
So this was one of those teams where it's like I didn't necessarily want to cut Zamir White, but we just like didn't really have a lot of cuts to make. I guess we could have faded the Donald Parham ad.
Why did we add Donald Parham?
Because we
Because we have no
we
starting
literally
tight
need a
end.
starter.
We don't have a starter this week.
We can go try to get White again once we have our
they're
elite
so
tight end
banged
back,
up
and we can start Dulcich.
Well, it's just two buys.
I kind of dig that Donald Parham. Could be. I missed this conversation, but I'm assuming it's because Mike Williams is out and they're so banged up at receiver and everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I tossed
we
him in
literally
at the
just
top of the
need a spot
$1 bids
start.
at the end, just because there's no pass catchers there. And I mean, realistically, with what was on the wire, we're just hoping for a long catch or a touchdown or something. And he's a dude that has shown a ceiling, so he might be a bagel, but he could get a long touchdown, and then we're happy.
Love it.
They used him like last year too, if I recall correctly. When they were using him, it was in red zone packages and stuff too. He got a couple looks down there. Let's see here. We do have some bids starting to roll in as usual.
Deon Jackson went for 600 in G Unit.
holy cow.
Wow. What was our bid on him? 220 here?
In ours, yeah.
We bid around. I think we bid at most like 400. That might have
Okay.
been on Jeff Wilson actually.
So yeah, Deon Jackson. What were we the 269 bid here? This is our buddy Jet going hard after.
Yeah,
Deon
we were
Jackson's
probably
take there.
269 here.
Yep.
That seems like a bid we would make.
Terrace Marshall came in for 14 there. I mean, just anyone.
Yeah,
tracking that.
Terrace Marshall 14, Khalif Raymond 21, Foster Moreau 21, Zach Wilson 25, Casey Defense 38. We just did a little small ball, picked up Julio Jones, got ourselves a kicker.
We got J.K. Dobbins in Slow Bros.
Let me pull that one up here. This was the only league Dobbins was available in for us, right?
Yeah.
This is the second bid group, I think. Here we go. We did 258. Next closest bid 47. Deon Jackson goes 176. So pretty wide range on Deon Jackson here. 176 to 600. Isaiah
I guess
Likely.
we could have, because we had Dobbins in on another bid. I think that 47 is our other bid group. So if we had flipped it, if we had prioritized Jackson, we might have gotten them both, which is a bummer.
Yeah, that's tough. That is tough. Let me see what else we got here. On our stat chasing team with Draco and Sam, we got a nice bid here. 213, next 181.
It's in euros in that league.
Draco is in.
That's amazing.
This kid lives in the United States and they still give him euros. It's vaguely racist on FFPC.
So the second one was Terrace Marshall at 53, and the runner-up was 52. It was a close bid. This one, 209.
209.
And then the next is 1.
To 1.
1, yeah. Wide range
Wow,
on
dude.
him right now.
Oh, we got Jeff Wilson in which league is this? Shot Chaser. We got Jeff Wilson for 406. Next bid 251.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, was this? Yeah, Jeff Wilson 406, 251, and then 251 for Deon. Were both of those bids ours? Was
I'm
the 251 or the?
They're probably
I'm
both
guessing
the
Singing Star put
Okay.
both in at 251. Figured
Yeah.
you'd get one of them.
Yep, Caleb Huntley 120, DeAndre Carter 82. Definitely feel good about getting Jeff Wilson. This is, of course, is our Austin Eckler, Najee Harris team, but we needed a spot start this week too. So I don't know if Wilson.
Somebody bid 124 on Terrace Marshall there, got beat 126.
Wow.
It's going for
Wow.
14 in other leagues.
Yeah.
Traylon Burks got dropped in one of our leagues. Let's go.
All right, so here's our Yacht Club here. So 220, next bid 158. I feel like that's a nice bid there. And then there was not a lot else going on here.
There wasn't a ton loose in this league. This one was, I remember going over and there wasn't a ton of like position player guys. Like the KC defense, I think that $13 bid that was next highest was us, just because they've got a nice run out schedule wise. So we bid a bit more than we normally would, but this wasn't, outside of Deon Jackson, there wasn't much on the wire in this league.
You got Butker going for 35 as the third highest bid, and Casey's D going for 21 as the fifth highest bid, and then right behind them, 2 more kickers.
Yeah,
4 of the top 6 ads or 7 ads were kickers.
I'm surprised because, like you said, Serum, there not being a lot here, you would think that would inflate the Deon Jackson bid more.
And I think we thought we had him, I think, in like, what was it, Frankie, like $89 or $90 or something like that, and then just sort of at the end had that conversation saying, "What are we saving our fab for?"
Yeah, I came in.
I don't even know if we're set up that he's starting this week for us. I don't think he probably works his way in. Maybe if Swift sits, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe
there over Algier or something. But it was just one of those things where we got 4 weeks left. We got to win to get in. You want to give yourself as many options, and like Pete said, there were so many outs. But I was surprised that it didn't get higher because there really wasn't anything on the wire here.
The teams in our league have put up $300 for like Latavius Murray and players like that. So I would have thought that there'd be a big bid.
Yeah,
maybe those guys don't have the money.
They're just out.
Seriously. Let's see here. What other one have I not put up? Let me see. Do I got Buckeye Boomers here? But this is probably, I think we talked about it with them. The Buckeye Boomers is by far our toughest waiver wire as far as like who's available. This is, how funny is this? You look at this bid group and thinking this. Kenyon Drake goes for 269 and Justice Hill gets dropped for the KC defense. That's wild to me.
By the same team or no? Different teams?
No. Different teams, but it just kind of goes to show where team needs are and where that converges with actually like backfield value.
Well, that was like, I think it was in the Discord. I think somebody had put something, it might have even been you, Pete, just saying, this is definitely a key week now, and next week are key times to watch the wires because teams are getting to that desperate mode where they're just going to make moves to win this week. Because like if they don't win this week, they're toast. And so you might see guys shake loose that have no business shaking loose just because someone like our group, like the last 2 weeks, we've had these like epic back and forths about who we're going to cut. You just get to a point where you kind of like all your guys, you kind of see the path to all your guys, but you need to, you need to get Donald Parham because your other two tight ends are on bye.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see guys shake loose, and it's an interesting time, especially if you're, if you're a bit safer, if you're up there in points, you're up there in record, and you're kind of looking with one eye towards the playoffs. Like you might be able to get some guys that you have no business getting off the wire.
In that Buckeye Boomers I mentioned, Josh mentioned in the chat, Burks, Gainwell, Hubbard all cut. You said that was a thin options and waivers, but we're going to have a few for next week. They don't all show up here, but Gainwell's there at the bottom.
Yeah, let me get
I'm
the.
psyched to get. I mean, that's weird that Burks got cut. He was going for like $200-300 2 weeks ago, and nothing's changed.
It's 2022, man. That's crazy.
Well, one thing's changed, Pat. He's like 2 weeks closer to being back.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
like,
more
what are you
appealing.
doing?
Well, Willis, I think they just don't expect to throw. Maybe.
Yeah, but Tannehill's going to be
targets.
back eventually,
Right.
right?
Yeah, if Tanne's not back,
Tannehill
he'll be back next week. He seems close.
Yeah, limited practice today. I mean,
What,
it's
you
not
guys
like
don't
they're
want the
going
Malik
with
Wills experience? One second half pass attempt. You don't think that's going to get it done for? Our
I don't
guy
think
Traylon?
he's winning that job. I just don't see it.
I'm surprised Arthur Smith didn't try to deal for him at the deadline.
That's a great point. Oh my god, he probably loves him.
Vrabel was probably watching Falcons game tape to get pumped for this Malik Willis start. He's like, how do I pull this off?
Isn't it weird? Like there's like a group of coaches that I don't recall it being quite like this, where there's like the Bears, the Falcons, the Titans. They're like so much run heavier than the rest of the league. The Saints are kind of getting there. It's kind of crazy. Like they're playing a different brand.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also. I mean, I think they realize that. Well, maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I could see a scenario where they realize that they're outgunned, and so you just try to minimize the variance, right? You try to minimize the number of drives there are. You try to that way one mistake carries you that much further. I don't know.
We're trying to maximize the variance because they're.
Oh yeah, sorry, maximize the variance. Yeah, like minimize the actual impact of skill. Like.
Yeah,
you got fewer. I think it was a couple weeks ago on Stealing Bananas that Sean kind of went on a riff about just these teams that are slowing it down. And Ben, I think you were referencing sort of the number of drives year over year. And I think they're just trying to shrink it down, right? That if they know that that's one thing they can do, and they know that fewer drives means that the skill won't necessarily carry the day every time. It's not the worst way to go about it if you're outmatched skill-wise.
I agree with that, but I also feel like it really bothers me that we hear about like all these, analytics and like should these guys be going for it in this situation or that situation, and like we spend all this time on that, but like the media lets coaches off the hook completely for playing for friendly losses. If you play for a friendly loss, no one gives you any crap. Like Collinsworth with the Packers, who were literally playing to just lose by 10 in that game. They're like, we don't care if we win this game. We just don't want to get embarrassed. He's like, this is the right strategy. This is the right strategy. You got to do this. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have enough time to win this game if you keep running the ball. Like that. I mean, Arthur Smith gave up against the Bengals. He straight up gave up. He wasn't running the ball. Bears gave up against the Packers. Like, to me, that's like, I don't know. That's like cowardly. Like, we should be giving these coaches shit for it. And no one, I mean, in the mainstream media and stuff, no one really does. That does bug me about it. We do, but no one listens to us.
Frankie, how is your first FFPC main event experience go? Because you won the crown for the most tilting through any draft experience. Is it the good kind of tilt, or is it the like I can't sleep at night kind of tilt?
No, it's definitely better now. I mean, now that we're 5-3, but we're in the mick of it. We're close. So, but yeah, in the beginning, like I said, it was early on, so you weren't sure yet that the rooms were turning a little bit. So, I was going in like, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to get Diggs. We're going to get all the people we want. And then it just fucking changed, and we got nobody. And then
he tilted our other team, too. And we started Diggs, Barkley, Allen, Amon-Ra. And he was tilting that team, too, because we took Amon-Ra instead of Gabe Davis. But now, I mean, what are we, 7-1? So,
yeah,
I mean, that team's working out a lot better, but he was tilting.
I guess I like to tilt. I don't know. I guess I'm
Frankie didn't tilt.
We've all been there.
We're just learning about ourselves.
Well, Frankie, you You thought the rooms were getting tougher, but you did agree to co-manage with us, okay? So, I mean, it's kind of on you too, right?
Exactly. And you're giving out the bids, how much you're going. You got people watching that's in our leagues. I mean, it's tough scenes over here. So
it's incredible. Anyone wants to
well
co-manage. Anyone wants to co-manage with us, as you just described it. Maybe I'll use that for our promo clip for our co-managing program next year.
Yeah, this is the one where we realized
releasing the bids. Yeah,
we realized the dude in the 9 hole that kept sniping us was a ship chaser, and so about halfway through, we started. Every time it was coming up to him and we were trying to figure out how to navigate it, we were asking Ben, like, Ben,
just check Ben's
if this were you, what would you do? It worked better for us down the back half of the draft.
Just get inside of Gretch's ranks and you're good. Stephanie, we'd definitely be down to do a main event draft with you next year. I already missed draft season. Draft season was very fun.
I mean, there was so much hope. Every pick was going to hit.
So
I mean, Elijah Moore looked like a star for this team. This team was not thin at wide receiver. It was a lot more fun looking at these draft boards before any of the games were played.
This is the next evolution to Gretch, is like you start to create a dummy rankings list. I was listening to, there's the thing in sports betting now too, where, I know it's happened to ETR, like the lines get shut down so quickly when they put out a prop bet. And so there's this thing called a head fake where everyone will collectively bet on the side you don't actually want to, then it'll move the market. And then you get the bigger bet down on the other side. Maybe what we need are some ship chasing head fakes. Maybe Sky Moore was the head fake all along, and we just didn't announce it.
We to be fair, we kind of shot on that head fake because we drafted him on all our teams. we gotta
get better
on
the head fake. Yeah, we got to get better on the head fakes. Oh my goodness. Frankie, what about you?
We gotta have a lot of we missed on Sky Moore again. Right.
Lou, what about you? Is this your first FFPC main event?
Yeah, this is the first time I've done it as FFPC, and then I have the other one with Frankie. What's that one called?
The football guys.
Football guys.
Yeah, the $350 one.
We're in like 150th or something in that. So
awesome.
we're set up to at least get through this round. I think we need probably one more win to clinch it. But we started real hot in that league because it was just Diggs and Allen, Amon-Ra like every week.
That's
so it's kind of cool. And this one, as Lawrence was saying earlier, like we've grinded our way back into it. So it's nice to be in it in both. Do you guys have any leagues that you're like 1-7 or 2-6? And what's sort of the vibes in those ones?
With Sean, the Sean's league, the Penta league is also in pretty rough shape, right?
I mean,
we got a couple.
Well, I could show you like this Sean team. Like you look at it on paper and you would think it was like leading.
It's 3-5.
So it lost Breece Hall. So before the Breece Hall, it had Etienne, Walker, and Breece Hall on it. Of course, Kyle Pitts, but we had Gerald Everett there. The wide receivers were weaker, but we had Wan'Dale Robinson, Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin. Like this team was going to be massive. We were able to get Tua on waivers, but
we lost Lance. We lost Lance. Yeah. We lost Chase as well, and for now, but.
Yeah, it's been clawing back after a very slow
I know Sean
start.
was really bummed about Jahan Dotson as well. He was pretty excited about Dotson's start, and then we haven't had Dotson for a bunch of weeks.
Lou, share your screen on your guys' FBG team. Let's see this one. Let's see this draft board.
Oh,
or Frankie.
Give it up, Frankie.
I have the FFPC. Yeah,
technically Frankie's account, so it might be.
I can.
Wow, multi-accounting.
How do I share screen on
Click
here?
present at the bottom, and then go to like tab. Go to share screen.
Look at Gretch. Went from not being able to set.
Listen, I'm the tech guy around here. Let me help him troubleshoot real quick.
He went out and totally redeemed himself.
Oh. Okay, here we go. Or I think you're on our team right now.
Yep, I am.
You know what? I'm going to take the pressure off you. I'm going to take the screen off. Let you do this in the privacy of your own office here.
We drafted this, a couple weeks after this FFPC team. It wasn't too far after. It looks the same.
Looks like the same team, Frankie. This team looks very familiar to me. It looks like one I co-manage with you.
Did I pick the wrong one? Jesus Christ.
Is it a different
All right.
tab?
Tab
Hold on.
share.
Yeah, I gotta go back.
All right, Gretsch will watch. Serum, how many football guys did you do this year? Because you do a bunch too, right?
Yeah, I did. Last year was the first year doing them because I won a bunch. I played a bunch of the $35 leagues and got lucky. I think that was the Kamara year, and I was heavy on Kamara, and then just like nuked finals on a bunch of leagues and got a bunch of free entries. So I did 6 football guys this year. I got one with Frankie. I did one with Evan, Essential,
Nice.
and then I did just 4 solo. I dig them. Like, they're a lot of fun. I just like the process of it. It's been cool doing this one because like you get that perspective with people. But it's been cool doing with Frankie too, and with Evan. Even though we're kind of in the same community, we definitely have different player takes and different approaches that way. I know that my and Evan's team has been so tilting. We went basically like punted QB and tight end, and it's been haunting us the whole time. Like there was one week where we had 5 of 4 for 4's top 9 wide receivers, and like the team went 1-4, and we couldn't get out of our own way. And it's like 3 tight ends always picking the wrong one, but we're starting to come back. I think we're 50 points out. Lost Chase, which sucked, but like I think it was one of those teams where you love it, but it's not performing. Kind of like yours and your Sean team, I think, where you just look at it and you're just like, why is this not doing better? This should be doing so much better. But it's a blast. Like I love these tournaments. I love the way they set up. I love that there's not the trading. That's one thing that tilts me in other leagues is when, there's always like 2 or 3 people that can get picked on, and then
yeah. Well, one thing too, I tell myself, like, we collectively draft so aggressively, chasing youth, chasing upside, chasing breakouts, chasing late season breakouts to have the hammer when the money is on the line. Like, the flip side of that is you're going to have some teams burn out. You're going to have some teams whose upside isn't realized before you can get them to the dance. And that's kind of like the trade you make to ultimately build some of those super teams that you do sneak through there. So I do think that's just always, I see people come like, freaking out about their advance rates in Best Ball Mania 3. And I was like, what kind of players were you drafting? Were you drafting a lot of DeAndre Hopkins? Were you drafting a lot of rookies? Like, were you like, what kind of teams were you drafting? What was your goal when you're doing that? I'm guessing your goal wasn't to have a sweet advance rate in week 8.
Well, I think the thing that's cool is like when you stick to your guns with that aggressive build, and this has worked out for me in a couple teams that started really slow, is if you're still making those decisions in week 3, week 4, week 5, with an eye on upside and with an eye on being aggressive, like I've had teams where I'm starting to close 50, 60 point gaps every week come bye weeks. Like that team I mentioned with Evan, it's like we couldn't get them out of our own way. I think we've been 160 or higher for the last 3 weeks, like 160, 170, 180 the last 3 weeks. And all of a sudden we went from like 10th in points and 12th in record. And now I think we're 1 win out and 50 points out. And it's like, if you just stick to those guns and you keep that, it's not always going to pan out, but you give yourself a way better shot when you feel dead 3-4 weeks in, because of the fact that you keep adding that firepower, and you're going to hit on some of them, and you're going to get the right run out.
For sure. This is a super fun team. Do you guys still have Tony on the roster?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wait,
Look at that.
What draft slot is it?
From the 12, Diggs, Barkley, Josh Allen, Amon-Ra, Juju, Godwin, Tony. Do you guys still have Gibson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the day he got shot. We were up, and we were like, should we pick him? We weren't sure if we should do it or not. Or the day that Robinson got shot.
When Robinson got shot, it was on that like Drake London spot. It was right before, like hours before we were on the clock.
Wow. That's
we also have Brian though. We got both of them.
Oh,
so you got Brian Robinson?
Like we picked him up. How much did we bid?
That was like 300, 250,
yeah, that was
300. Somebody dropped him. So.
And Freiermuth could come on real strong here with
Claypool. He's been good, and Tunyon's been okay. We
got
still
Taysom.
have him.
We picked up Taysom for like $100.
You got psyops by Davis into your fab on
for sure.
Into making a good pickup.
We didn't start him his 40-foot week either. We started.
I didn't realize you were a Taysom slappy, Pat.
I'm not a Taysom slappy, but for $100, I mean, when we were gonna spend like 300 on him or whatever.
I just need Taysom to be good this week. He's covering for Freiermuth and Kittle on more rosters than I care to admit.
But yeah, this is a really fun team here.
Yeah, we're like 6-1. We're first in points by like 100, so we should at least make the playoffs for sure. Hopefully, so.
Nice.
And you already got that Bills bye now under your belt too.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you guys have a debate about Josh Allen that stack? Obviously, you had 2 picks at the turn there, but were you considering double tapping?
Allen was pretty easy, I think. We were pretty good on him, but it was the round 4 of Amon-Ra versus Gabe Davis. Like I said, after Gabe played on that Thursday, I was like, damn, we should have taken Gabe. That'd be awesome to have Diggs, Allen,
Amon-Ra
and
beat him
Gabe.
by 0.1 in that week too. It was so close.
And then Amon-Ra has just been a stud. So.
Well, Frankie, you must have had best ball double stack brain going when you were you were doing this one.
My thought was it wouldn't like. Do you guys have many double stacks on your teams? I just felt like it didn't make as much sense in this managed version.
We don't have a ton, do we?
I'm trying to
I
think.
have a Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams double stack that I'm just loving right now.
Do
We have an Eckler, Mike
Nuke,
Williams,
Rondell?
Herbert. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
that, I think. Although I don't know if we have Nuke on that one.
We weren't going out of our way to do that.
We have a couple. We have like the Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore double, but we didn't add Zach Wilson. We kind of did that.
Well,
We had
Chase
Rondale,
too.
Kyler on ours.
That's true.
Which is like
Right.
We almost
budget
did
in
Kittle or Waller there in that spot too. We were debating with the tight end premium, but I think at that time you guys were all pretty high on Amon-Ra, so that's why I think we ended up going with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
37.
slow
It was still a little early there, I think, but I mean, he definitely rose up the draft boards later on. So this was a team we drafted later. So
that's one too. I regret on, like, I was, with best ball stuff too. I was pretty smoothed out with my exposures, but I was just like I think I have like 2 Josh Allen shares. And it's not like you want to make a habit of hammering quarterback in the third, but sprinkling them in these spots here too, because you do look at this thing. I guess it would have been probably hard for me to pass on Waddle here, just being like very honest with what the board was. But having that tiebreaker there with Diggs, it frees you up. Like, you can do the thing, and we talked about this a lot in draft season, where it's like, we know we like Kadarius Toney in the 7th, and let's just forget what he's done so far. But it frees you up if you start to do 2v2s of like, hey, we're going to take, Kyler Murray there. And then you can start to do that of like, oh, Jalen Waddle and Kyler versus Josh Allen and Kadarius Toney. Like, if you have those set up, I think it makes a lot of sense to make those detours when you really like a guy.
And I think this is a really great example of, I mean, we know conceptually what stacks are and what they do, but like when you make the bet on Diggs, like this is why you guys took him, right? You're like, you made the bet on Diggs. The bet on Diggs has hit more like 2020 than it did in 2021, whereas his efficiency was down. He's been incredible in 2022. If you really like, there are outcomes where Diggs really hits, and if Diggs really hits, and a lot of those outcomes, like we've seen, you would want Allen there, right? Like it makes it like I think sometimes when we talk about stacks or we think about stacks, we're like, yeah, I mean, we don't have to stack this guy up, this and that, but Allen's the kind of player where he's going to do enough other stuff. If you're right on Diggs there in the first round, I mean, you're probably going to want Allen. You're probably going to want that stack. Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Like this week, we were going into Monday night and we were down like 36 points or something like that. And we had Allen and Diggs left. And it also feels a lot nicer when you have that stack going into the last game and they don't have anyone left to play.
Yeah, you're down by 36 and they are sweating.
They're like, fuck.
I lost, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Diggs was our for sure pick after getting sniped on him in our main event. We were like, once it came to him, we're for sure taking him. And then we were like, Saquon
can't
or
go
Swift
again.
Yeah, we're like, let's switch it up to Saquon. So those 2 picks were pretty easy. So, but I was thrilled in the 5th, 6th to get Juju Godwin, like lasted to us then. Like when you see some of the wide receivers that went in the 5th, like Thomas, Cooks.
So you're saying if we took Diggs in the main, you guys would have talked us into Allen instead of George Kittle, and our team would be awesome.
Yep. That's what you're telling us?
Probably.
All right.
Too bad
you would have picked up Dulcich off waivers and would have been
Frankie and Lou, do you guys have a co-manager program we could join?
Yeah,
no kidding.
Hit us up next season. So
yeah. Well, very good stuff. I'm excited. I'm excited for this team that we have. I mean, if we can get DeAndre Swift and Adams kind of accessing the ceiling regularly that we know they can hit, this team can definitely make some noise down the stretch.
We made it this far. We made it this far without like a huge blow up from any of our, other than Waddle.
There's definitely firepower on this team. I mean, Juju, we talked about how he hasn't been great, but the last 2 games before the bye were really promising. He could hit. Waddle obviously has been. I think Waddle's been the hit on this team.
Waddle's awesome.
In that range in the fourth, there has not been a lot of great. I mean, that 3-4 turn, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, those guys have all missed, right?
Well, let's talk about Rhamondre. Rhamondre's been the biggest cost adjusted.
Baby.
I think we got him like in the 8th or 9th. Like this is before he started climbing too. This was early enough in July that he was still viewed as like maybe behind Damian Harris, and it was kind of murky. And
that was like the one pick that like we were hoping a guy lasted, and he did. And then
got him in the 9th.
Like,
we took him one spot ahead of Damian Pierce. Isn't that funny?
9th round. That is so nice there on Rhamondre.
Would you rather have Rhamondre or Damian Pierce going forward right now?
Honestly, Rhamondre.
I would too. Yeah, Pat. The one I've remembered where you and I had a little disagreement on a live draft was Rhamondre at Pollard, and I wanted Pollard in our drafts, and I was like, this will be our only shot to get a Pollard share, and it's looked pretty clearly like Rhamondre, and then obviously Pollard has the big game. I think they've both the answer has been that they've both been, I think, pretty good.
Yeah,
picks.
the answer was both. Yeah,
but that was taking Rhamondre. Look at where Pollard is in this. That's why I bring it up. Like, you guys were talking about how good the value 9-11 was for Rhamondre. I mean, we got 2.5 rounds after Pollard at this spot.
I don't even think it's close, though. If you say right now, who do you want rest of season, Rhamondre, Pollard? I don't even think it's close.
You want Rhamondre, but Pollard could beat him pretty easily, and it's literally he just plays. That's it. It's like he literally just
it's like saying, would you rather have Rashad White or Rhamondre Stevenson? Like, Rashad White just played, then but there's a big fat thing in front of him. All right. Any final words here, Frankie? Plug the pasta house. Fucking plug the pasta house, Frankie.
Best pasta house in St. Louis. You got to come to Afton, Missouri. So that's where we're at. We're a franchise.
Is Davis still ghosting you? Has Davis ever been to the pasta house?
So in the NGMI Discord, he said he's only like 2 miles away from us, and I've still never seen him up there. So I don't know if he goes days I'm not there, or I know he does a lot of like Postmates stuff. So who knows? But I mean, 2 miles. You'd think I'd see him one time.
Yeah.
You just need to taste some Hill appreciation there at the pasta house.
There you go, dude.
This is absolute bullshit. I didn't realize he was 2 miles from
That's what
there.
He said in the Discord. I was shocked. Yeah.
Frankie, this is what I need you to do. I'm going to pay for this. This is going to be on me. I want you to set up a candlelit dinner for Davis and his new wife. I'm going to pay for the entire meal. I want you to get a photograph. I want you to wine them and dine them at the restaurant. I mean, can we just make this happen?
Yeah, I'm there every Wednesday and Saturday nights usually, so I'm sure nights are better for him. So we just got to get to him. So.
All right. I already sent him a vacuum cleaner on his registry, but I'm willing to buy him a nice dinner out just for the content equity. But I have to get a photo out of this and a sponsorship for the pasta house.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We need all the business we can get, so we'll take it.
There you go. Serum, do you want to plug? Is there like a tree cutting business up there? I mean, what's logging company?
No, man. No, nothing to plug. Just working, raising kids. Fantasy football for 5 months of the year.
I got you. Lou, what's going on at Lucky Trader? We talking gobblers, talking rainmakers.
Oh man. I haven't done anything with the gobblers. I'm still I do a couple of videos a week on Rainmaker stuff right now. They're about halfway through season. And just general NFT stuff. NFTs are still going on. People still talking about them. So we're still covering them.
Can you talk to Kalish about my pack? Did you see the pack I opened last night on Club?
Oh yeah, that was probably the worst pack I've ever seen.
Did you guys hear about this?
No.
So my min cashed in the SPY this week on DraftKings, and they like undercut the prize pool and like only did 1.5x min cashes, and then the normal spot that they did like the full like 2x min cash, they gave Rainmakers packs. So that's what I won for like essentially bubbling the min cash line. So I opened it last night on Club Top Shot, and you got like 4 commons or whatever regular cards, and then there was 1 rare card, and that's where you're trying to make your money. And so I get to it. It's a fucking Mitch Trubisky rare. I was down so bad. I was down so bad. Lou, what did you say the market?
A couple of weeks that was usable.
A couple of weeks.
2017.
Oh my goodness.
The days of long pass.
Great. Anything? Are you going back into the studio this Friday? Is that a regular thing for you now?
Yeah, I've been going up. I'll be up Friday. Yep, it's been every Friday for the last few weeks. I was up Monday actually as well. Me and Lawrence Jackson were on the show on Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Did a segment. But yeah, be back on Friday. Check out the walkthrough on rotoworld.com.
You got big pressure, Pat, because the blurb we featured in the Fantasy Life newsletter was your Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown.
Couldn't have been more accurate. I mean, we talk about being right for the right reasons. Like, could not have more. I mean, Nostradamus over here. Laid out.
It is. I did feel good about that. I selected because the walkthrough is like about like a 35-page research paper. So I took like the 4 fucking paragraphs that made me look the best. So that was nice. It was a nice.
Well, you picked them in advance. You didn't pick them that made you look the best after. Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I picked it. I picked it on Friday. Yeah.
You nailed the right 4 paragraphs to choose, is what you're saying. But I mean, what a perfect breakdown of how that was going to play out. That was beautiful.
I was wondering if Gretch has slept since the weekend. Like that was like I think I said in Discord. It was Merry Gretchmas. It was like that was your time.
It was
exciting. That was the peak.
Well, for me, the strategy here is not just to get something right, put it in the newsletter, but also pick something that is going to make Gretch extremely happy, so that then he'll promote the win. So then I don't have to toot my own horn here.
Hey, it's about AJ Brown, man. Auto retweet.
Yeah.
Gretch, anything else going on in your neck of the woods? Of course, stealing signals, stealing lines, stealing bananas.
No, I mean, I just want to talk more about how AJ Brown is the best receiver of this or any generation. But yeah, nice to promote.
I mean, can we just have the Texans miraculously put up a fight tomorrow so they just have to play 4 quarters? I mean, can you imagine the Eagles' numbers if they had to play more than 2 quarters a week? I mean, it would be very fun.
It would be beautiful.
They might play.
I got one plug. I got a plug stealing lines for one specific play that I like blindly tailed. And while I was making the bets, I was like, this is the dumbest waste of money I've ever done in my life. And I think I made like $500 off of it.
All right.
It was Dalton posted PJ Walker and DJ Moore ladders.
Ooh.
Like alt lines up to like plus 1,400. And when that bomb caught, DJ Moore broke the top alt by 10 yards, and PJ Walker broke his top alt by like 3. And it was just
oh my God.
Doubled my roll. It was amazing. So
wow.
Everyone subscribe to Stealing Lines every now and again. Like it paid my subscription like 5 times over.
Dalton is really, I mean, there is a little bit of the longer shots, and I've heard some feedback that people don't love the, sometimes you're going to miss on those a lot. They're all a lot of them are fractional bets. We're doing a lot of normal, prop bets, and I do all the game picks and stuff. But Dalton is like part of the reason I brought him in. He's been very good at these long shots. He's been crushing them again this year. We had a monster week. Monster, not just those ones, but he's hit. I mean, he knows how to pick those out. He's good at them.
He tagged me
when he puts those ladders, it's like it's 1 in 4 that they hit. Like it's been wild this season because you're getting 10x, 15x value on the bets, but he's hitting them like 20%, 15% of the time. Like
he's hit a couple of the most, the week leader yardage props as well. A couple big ones.
Just wait till I'm starting. He's been tagging me now because he'll get tagged in like Geno Smith MVP stuff, the one that originated the idea of the show.
That's the bet that anyone who plays that bet was like, I'm wasting my money. I was like, I don't care how long of a shot that was. That was ridiculous.
Arthur Smith, Coach of the Year, has words for that one though.
That was the worst. That's where Dalton lost me, was Arthur Smith, Coach of the Year. Because you just can't root for that. I mean, who can root for that?
I didn't bet that one.
All right, guys, very fun show. Come hang out with us in the Discord, become YouTube members, get you access to Stat Chasing live on Tuesday nights. Make sure you check out that episode posted yesterday if you have not. Appreciate all you guys. Shout out to Frankie, Lou, and Serum for joining us. We will keep you updated on these teams. For Pat, for Gretch, I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next week.